Jamie reminded me of this when I was writing what became my first novel, Failing Paris. We are Kate Braverman survivors, and I was writing these tortured images of this woman in Paris, and she was in her room and she was thinking tortured thoughts, looking out this window, and across the street there was a patisserie. And Les finally said, hey, you know, like you're thirsty. You know, she's always looking at that bakery. Why don't you just have her kind of go buy some bread? Get the bitch out of the house. Shit can happen in your story. So I saw him at, last time I saw him was at the Writers' Fair at UCLA, which we always saw each other at. It was like, you know, it was cheers, you know. It happened all the time, and we were talking. He waited for me. It was a little unusual because he didn't, we usually just kind of caught each other on the fly, but he waited for me after my panel, and he was like, hey, you know, how are you? You're great. And we were walking, and then I was like, yes, it's fantastic. I'm having the best fucking year of my life. Let me tell you how great my life is right now. And I was telling him all this great stuff after having lots of shitty years. And he said, wow. I said, how are you? He said, well, I'm having the worst year of my life. I said, really? I said, aren't you married or some shit now? Or he said, no, she left me. Bummer. Yeah, you know, I'm not feeling so good. My back and my stomach, and I got all these health things, medical bills, and I'm like, dude, you are fucking bumming me out, man. Where is the, you know, because that's the way we talk to each other, you know. And he was softer. He was softer in that moment, and I put my arm through his, and I said, listen, you're going to have a great year next year. I'll have a shitty year. Wait, no, well, why don't we both have good years? It'll be something new. And he hugged me, and I hugged him back. And I said, okay, I got to go see you, man. And I was walking down the hall at UCLA, and I had that feeling, you know, you get when someone's still looking at you. And I turned around, and I'll just never forget this image. And it haunts me. Because here he was, you know, he looked like a little scrawny dog. If he was at the pound, he never would have made it, you know. And he was this little guy in this big empty hall, and I had the impulse to go back and say something else and say I didn't have to go, but I didn't go. And I just waved at him, and he was like, see you, doll. See you, man. Bye. I'm going to let her talk now.
I'm going to read something really short. It's and then I'm going to read something else that's really short. Like Sammy said, we were in the workshop with Kate, in which most of us had our birth as writers. And one thing that I think is important, considering the Joan Didion wonderful excerpt that Joshua read, is that we also were editing each other's work then. So Kate was a tyrant, but we were also editing. So when my first book came out, people had it memorized, every line past judgment, and we got to know, we didn't know, like we came from very different backgrounds, you know, and we didn't really care about that. We just cared about what was on the page, and we knew each other, and we had it memorized, and so the bond is really great. And I now live in San Francisco, and on Tuesday afternoon I came home from a doctor's appointment, and there were 4 messages on my phone machine, all from people from this original group, some that I hadn't heard from in years, and everyone had a very gravelly voice, very upset, and said, Mary, please call me, please call me. His hand was choked up, and Joshua was, you know, had left a message, and Jody had left a message, and I'm 500 miles away, and don't come to LA very often, but that bond is still there. And for many of us, we came from families where we always felt estranged, and this was a family where I felt this is what a family is, you know, not like my birth family, but this is really a family. And this is my first, I won't say much about myself, this is the last thing that I'm 64, I'll be 65 next month, and I have never experienced grief until this week. My parents have both died, my brother died, family members have died, but the family was such that I felt only one thing after each of those passings, which was relief. I felt my world was safer, it was safer. So when we feel sad, like I have been able to feel this week, it's really a privilege. It's really a gift to be in a family that where you feel known and seen and heard and accepted, and to grieve is probably the most beautiful experience, because it means you've been grafted into something that means something. And I'm feeling fatigued now too. You know, I'm ready for my burger, but the fatigue is kind of a fatigue of it's like meaning fatigue. I mean, every single person who's spoken has said something meaningful, and I hardly ever feel meaning fatigue. You know, it's usually boredom fatigue or something like that. So I'm really learning, you know, like what is grief? What does it look like? You know, I've been taking notes on it because it's really new for me. That's no joke, you know, it's new. I want to read just something that came with the last Bongo Sunset when I had to get another copy of it. That's a long story. So I ordered another copy this week, and all of his books, so I'm sure his sales are going up, which he would love. And in it was this printed interview. I don't know who from Simon & Schuster asked the question. I'm going to read the question and then give Les's answer. So this goes back to when this book came out. In these days of political correctness, do you think such a bleak, sordid tale is appropriate? Some questions never die. Okay, here's his answer, it's so pretty. Extreme situations are the best breeding ground for testing courage, for coming to grips with life and death, love and betrayal. I didn't want to mess around with the petty or mundane, which we're inundated by. I wanted to create a world where death was a real possibility, where the struggle between right and wrong was clearly defined. The characters live in a stark, relentless, yet captivating world in which their destinies are forged and their spirits redeemed or corrupted. It just so happens that the world I describe was the one handed to me by my experience, a divine gift as my way of exploring the big questions. The second thing, I am a Christian, and I don't think that that's really matters, but this last week I have been looking for meaning to understand what do I do with death? You know, what do I do with that? And the written words by an anonymous author, we think composed around the year 90 AD, which would be about 2,000 years ago almost, written in Greek. It was a text that became very loved in the early Christian community, such that it was included in what Christians call the New Testament, which is the Christian part of the Bible. And it's one of the 4 Gospels. The New Testament starts with the Gospels, which are very minimalist biographies of Jesus of Nazareth. This one, John's Gospel, it doesn't start with the Nativity. There are no donkeys, there's no straw, nothing. And I thought of these words coming today. First of all, the words have survived, which is something. The author is dead. The words have survived. But this author chose to begin his portrait of Jesus by saying this, writing this in Greek. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was light, and the light was the life of men. The light shineth in the darkness, and the darkness receiveth it not. But to as many as received it, to them gave he power to become the children of God. And I think we can take away all the scaffolding. If we don't believe in God, doesn't matter. In the beginning was the Word. So I would say, let us, as we have today, honor Les by honoring his words and sharing his words. And let us honor him, all of us who come from different connections to him. Let us honor him by meeting in the white of the page, that sacred rectangle of white on which we put ink, or the blank screen in which we type, and let us make worlds through language. Let us, participate in the power of the word in our words. I think that exceeds all of our fears. And I think the word, our words, are greater than death itself.
Kyle's going to play, my little brother Kyle's going to play a song after which we can all have something to drink and eat, as you've heard. It's my fault that there's no cheese for the cheeseburgers. It's in my refrigerator at home. As far as I can tell, it's the only thing I fucked up. Please stay around because, as has been mentioned a couple times, Les had sort of this weird food chain, so it's not going to be very often that all these people that knew Les are going to be together. So please stay around and be amongst Les, of course, and his friends. And we all love Les. So Kyle, why don't you come up here?
You can start those burgers, Chris. Yeah.
I think they're overcooked right
now. I'm not going to say much, but I just want to say briefly that I wasn't going to say anything, but then I was thinking about it when everyone was talking, and it was funny because I met Les when I was really young. I was 14. And I met him after I stole a book at Michael and Max's bookstore, and I think Les would have wanted me to steal one of his books. He wasn't fine with that, but I was like really impressionable at the time, and I was like, this is awesome. He's like the crazy writer guy with like the weird eyes and everything, and then like I went to his house, and he had like I opened his fridge, and there was like one piece of American cheese and like some Wonder Bread, and it was really like the whole deal. But after everyone's reading, like I was thinking just how it wasn't just the lifestyle; it was like the writing was there, and I really think he's one of the greatest writers to ever live, and yeah. I was going to play a different song, but I'm going to play something that everyone knows because that'll be nicer. What would you do if I sang out of tune? Would you stand up and walk out on me? Lend me your ears and I'll sing you a song, and I'll try not to sing out of key. I get by with a little help from my friend. I'm gonna try with the help from my friend. I get high with the help from my friend. How do you feel when your love is away? Does it worry you to be alone? How do you feel at the end of the day? Are you sad because you're on your own? for my friend. Do you need anybody, Lord? I just need me someone to love. Could it be anybody, Lord? Just need me someone to love. Do you believe in a love at first sight? Yes, I'm certain that it happens all the time. What do you see when you turn out the light? I can't tell you, but I know that it's mine. I get by with a little help from my friend. I get high with a little help from my friends. I just might die with a little help from my friends. Yes, I get by with the help from my friends. With the help from my friends. Stick around and eat. People can read and come up and do it and stuff.